If you'd like to do a call to order, I'm the chair. My name is Randy Kenyatta Rao Jr. and I represent Eastport. Anybody want to go next?
Sure, this is Bill O'Leary, Commissioner from Ward 2.
Jeremy Hansen, Ward 5.
Yeah, we see Paul. We got Paul.
Paul is on mute.
Yeah, Paul Murphy's here. Okay,
Unmute. Paul Murphy, Ward 2. Sorry about that.
no problem. And I'm sorry, Bill, what ward did you say you were in again?
Ward 2 by the stadium.
And Jeremy, yours was
Ward 5.
okay. Sorry for the duplication. So before we have the approval of the minutes. Do we all approve the minutes? Did you all get to see the minutes that were sent out? We're seeing.
Yes, I read them. They were fine with me.
Okay, cool. Get a motion to vote to accept the minutes.
I so motion.
Second.
Right. So we'll approve that officially, set that in stone. And, one of the things that we want to try to do with our commission meetings is give a platform for different city officials and directors and employees or personnel to come in and talk about different ideas and projects and future activities that are going on, with the hopes that the Environmental Commission can weigh in or provide any amount of feedback or what have you on the environmental impacts that we see there. So without further ado, we have Mr. Eric Lashinsky here today, and he'll be talking to you all. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to be with the commission as always. Just to confirm, our Lashinsky, Chief of Comprehensive Planning, City's Planning and Zoning Department. And what I came to present, to share, is Gateway Park, or Capital City Gateway Park is kind of the formal name. It's an exciting idea right now. It's I would say it's sort of in the pre-project stage. Now I want to try to provide some context before I get into what it is. I want to just say that as you all know, we are doing the public water access plan for the city right now, and that's something that I'm very involved with Brian Callahan from the mayor's office, who's other key city staff, and it's a partnership with the National Park Service, who's funding that. The city's first ever public water access plan. So it's something that should have happened by now, I think, and we're seeing more and more conflict on the waterfront that probably could have been mitigated, how to use our waterfront to make it more equitable in terms of opportunities. And so I'm really thrilled to be doing it now. I wanted to first share, for those website for the public water access plan on the city's website, you can see the kind of change in the comprehensive planning, and then as part of our 2040 comprehensive plan, there's a page. Really, if you just search for public water access plan, either on Google or on our city website, if you type in Annapolis public water access plan in Google, it's the first thing that should come up. And we're posting things that we're doing with the plan as it moves along. We're about halfway through the process. We've had a couple of focus groups that were recorded. You could see those here and watch those. We did a needs assessment where we went out to every single one of our existing public water access sites, at least the ones that are managed officially, either by the city or a private partner, but they're publicly accessible. And we did a thorough inventory. And so you can click on that and go through that plan. We still have our community survey open. We're still trying to reach more people. I think the participation in that is still not as representative of the city as we would like it to be. So, if you know of anybody who hasn't filled out that survey, please let them know about it. We put up some posters at Pip Moyer recently, just as another push to get more participation. You can see some of the maps. I'm going to share an example of one of the maps that we've created. But we've done these for all the creek sheds, these maps of existing water access sites. And then there's some examples of some of the plans from other places that we're looking to as precedents. So the one in New York City is really like the gold standard, in my opinion, for an equitable public water access plan. And we're working with the Volpe Center. That's important to say. The project's being funded by the National Park Service, but they help bring in a consultant called the Volpe Center. It's actually a division of the U.S. Department of Transportation. They're kind of like the innovation arm of U.S. DOT. They do a lot of planning work for other federal agencies and also local government agencies. So that's why they're working with us. And they've done some really great projects around the country. So we're fortunate to be working with them. But I wanted to share one of the big, it seems kind of like trivial that just to make a map of our existing water access sites, but it's something we did not have. We have maps of all of the city's parks, but when you get down to talking about the public water access locations, it gets very specific, very fast. And what we kind of learned in doing this, it took a few months, believe it or not, to come up with this map, as simple as it is. There's a lot of different naming conventions. People have different names for these sites. For example, 4th Street Park on Spa Creek is actually called Leon Wolf Park. Or the one by the Maritime Museum is called Herbie Sadler Park. At the end of Prince George Street by the City Dock is called Commodore Barry Park. So there was some clarification that was needed for who's managing what. Some sites are managed by our city's Rec and Parks Department. Some are managed by our Public Works Department. On the map, you can see we've shown privately managed open space like the St. John's College waterfront, the St. Luke's restoration project that backs up to Back Creek. We have the Crab project that's coming up. It's under construction right now. These light greens. And then we have the purple sites are planned projects. So you have Elktonia Cars Beach. You have the Hawkins Cove project. You have Tolson Street is on Weems Creek, and that was just dedicated as a park by City Council resolution recently. It's not really I would say there's not much there currently. The neighbors have put out some tables and chairs, but there's a path down to the water. But we need to study the site and figure out how to improve the water access there. And then you have this purple spot right here on College Creek, which is Gateway Park. It's really on the gateway into downtown off of Route Boulevard. It's a site that I think a lot of people probably have never noticed, myself included. It's been kind of off the map for a long time, and it's just a forested peninsula that has been sort of not really very accessible. It was a homeless encampment for many years. The homeless residents there have recently been relocated by Anne Arundel County. And we have started to work with the county on some funding of planning for that site. So let me just show you, I'm gonna go back to that map, but this is what we're talking about. This is the site. As you're coming into downtown Rail Boulevard, to your left, you have a sort of forested area that's large, and it's actually, half of it is owned by the state of Maryland. That's the half closest to Rail Boulevard. And then the other half is owned by the Navy, the part that's closer to the cove here. These were some images that were made for a funding proposal to the federal government to kind of explain what the project is. But really nothing has happened yet. And we're actually going to be working with the county on a feasibility study. So the county has budgeted funds to do a feasibility study for the site. The vision is basically for a relatively passive use of this peninsula, but with a community boating facility at the end closest to where the parking is. At the National Archives building is right here. I guess that is due west. So there's a parking lot that is barely used on the weekends and the evenings. And the idea, just the basic concept, is that there would be some sort of way of accessing the water close to there. And we need to study how that could be possible. But really, we're trying to have a pretty minimal footprint on this site. If you go there today, one of the really interesting features is old train tracks from when there was the WB&A Railroad. I believe that's the name of it, that ran across College Creek, and it went right through this property. And so there's kind of the cool remnants of this old train line that could be preserved as part of the park. We did in fact, I think this project has been talked about for a long time. One of the things that when I came in to my role here as a little over 2 years ago, the project was already being discussed, and there was a University of Maryland studio project that was done to kind of come up with some ideas for it. Here's some photos that they uncovered showing that old train trestle across College Creek. Pretty cool. They were tasked with looking at places for a new boathouse for for the public. College Creek already has a Navy boathouse, has a St. John's College boathouse, but there's really no boathouse for the general public. And there's a lot of people who could walk to this location from nearby communities, many underserved communities. And so the students looked at a variety of sites near College Creek. You can see they looked at the end of Northwest Street, where we have a street end park. They looked at the church, Calvary United, Adams Academy, which is over at the end of Clay Street. And then this is the site that they were calling Paddle Park, as seen from Rail Boulevard. So they went through kind of an analysis of all the different sites. And then they ended up saying, well, this site where we've kind of been focusing on really has the best opportunity to do something transformative. And they're showing the old train track here. They're showing kind of some of the existing conditions. And so this is kind of what we inherited. They did some research on different practices for paddle access, accessibility, and they came up with a plan. And we're going to kind of build on some of their ideas. In fact, one thing we've discussed with the county is doing kind of like a phase one trail plan that would sort of make the site accessible to people who just wanted to walk it and would feel like they weren't trespassing. And that would be kind of the initial idea, while we do the larger feasibility study and we have to do some paperwork with state and the Navy to sort of secure the property for use as this park. But yeah, this is the study that was done by the students. I do want to kind of go back to something. This is a packet that, again, that we put together for this funding application. This is the view right next to the Rowell Boulevard Bridge. It kind of slopes down to the water. That could be a nice spot as well. This is one of the bluffs looking across the cove. Obviously winter shots. This is the field that's right next to the parking lot at the archives building, which is kind of not really used right now. So you can kind of imagine there's potentially some more programming that could happen here as part of the park. And here, this is the site again. Let me just show you. And so this was a map that we did in planning and zoning a couple of years ago, just to kind of show the opportunities for connections and investment on College Creek. This isn't something that came out of much stakeholder engagement. It was really just a way to take stock of what's here today. And College Creek's unique. I wanted to kind of go back for a second to the our existing water access locations. You can see they're almost all on Back Creek and Spa Creek. We have just a few existing locations on College Creek, and then we only have one on Weems Creek. So there's a high need, obviously the old Fourth Ward, the Clay Street community is adjacent to College Creek. Their public water access has been extremely limited. We're working on Robert Eads Park right now, which is down at the headwaters of College Creek. That's a really exciting project. We're hoping to have a event on either December 12th or 13th. We are confirming the date probably tomorrow at the First Baptist Church on West Washington Street to share the final design for that. But that is fully funded, so we're excited to move towards breaking ground on that soon. And then the city has Northwest Street Park, which should be a priority, but that's the extent of what the city owns on College Creek. The rest of it is owned by other organizations or entities, but most of it is public. So you kind of have the situation where you have a lot of public land, but not necessarily accessible waterfront. You have cemeteries, you have St. John's College, which is generally publicly accessible. You have this site where we're planning Gateway Park, and then you have Anne Arundel County has a large piece of land around Adams Academy. You have some housing authority land. You have a couple private parcels, you have a church site. You have a lot of potential for trail connections. And so we're not going to see anywhere near the kind of development that Spa Creek or Back Creek has. This is going to be a natural creek in perpetuity because of the ownerships around the creek. And so it's kind of this opportunity to create kind of like a central park for the city, and that has a lot of wildlife and restored shorelines. And that's kind of the vision for College Creek. And so this Gateway Park could be part of that. And let's see, there's one other thing I wanted to share. I guess that's it. That's basically where we're at. I think, there was a lot that was sort of kind of the holding pattern before the election. And now that has kind of wound its way up, gotten wrapped up. We're going to be moving forward with this feasibility study for Gateway Park, and I anticipate that's going to be something that involve a lot of public engagement and stakeholders. But it's going to be led by the county, and the city is going to be a major stakeholder in that and partner, I would say. And so, kind of look forward to being able to share that and get people involved in that process. But that's what I have for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great plan, and definitely want to open it up to the group for any thoughts, questions, any immediate thoughts or responses. All right.
Eric, this is Bill O'Leary, and I really appreciate you giving us that overview. My house borders the Adams Academy, so I'm particularly interested in that whole area and that peninsula, but also the potential for having that on the other side of Row Boulevard, that gateway area as well, and possibly being able to interconnect them. I will say that the condition of the land and the amount of invasive species and things like that is pretty significant in those areas. Yes, they're wooded, but they're in danger. There's a ton of ivy and other invasives in there. So I guess my question is, how much are you envisioning just trails, or would there be more efforts to try to improve those wooded areas? Or
Yeah, I think the full scope of the park is definitely going to involve restoration work and afforestation and it basically adding vegetation that will help to kind of reinforce some of the waterside conditions. I mean, I think there's also a lot of erosion there. So in addition to the invasives, the vines that are taking over the trees, we're kind of losing, kind of like similar condition at Truxton Park. If you've been on the trails over there, I mean, we are losing some of the bluffs that are at the site. So, and I don't think the scope is fully resolved for the feasibility study. I would expect that that's going to involve some kind of a tree survey and an understanding of what's there today that we can save and what we can't save, and what kind of additional planting would be worthwhile. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It's kind of a mess in there right now. There's just, I mean, honestly, a lot of trash. I mean, it's just been, it's the homeless kind of community that was there had gotten very established, and they almost had like a kind of a village in there with like streets. I mean, it was pretty unbelievable when I saw it. And so the residue of that is pretty significant, and the county is going to be helping to clean up the site. They're kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting on that. But that's definitely going to be part of it.
I appreciate that. I was also curious about the park at the end of College Creek at the mouth there, or not at the mouth, but at the headwater there. There's a really significant outflow pipe kind of right in the middle of it. So I was just curious if there was going to be any additional stormwater work in that area.
Yeah, so there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 of that project. The phase 1 involves some slope plantings to kind of hold the some kind of native species planting along the slope around the wing walls, but not necessarily any wetland type planting out, on the water side. but the phase 2 would involve kind of more of a living shoreline type treatment and something that would, I mean, really there's a lot of sediment built up over there, as you know, and we've started talking with the Department of Natural Resources about some assistance with dredging. It's a kind of a challenging discussion because it's a little bit like a catch-22 with it, where the money that they use to fund dredging comes from, it's called this Waterways Transportation Fund, I think, and it comes from, I believe it comes from gas tax on from boating gas, and basically they dredge places that have a history of navigation. So if you can't like prove that this was a navigable channel, they don't really prioritize it. So we're trying to work around that somehow, but it's the same issue at Hawkins Cove, where because it's been all kind of sedimented in, there's no navigation, but clearly if we dredged it, we could have more navigation, and so we're trying to, we would like to dredge before we do any living shoreline type plantings, and basically, or figure out if we, because when you dredge, you can kind of potentially use some of that sediment as to build up in certain areas if needed, if that sediment isn't contaminated. I don't think it would be, but yeah. So I mean, I think kind of to your bigger question, like there probably does need to be a drainage study of just that College Creek watershed. And I know that Public Works is doing something in the Germantown Homewood area that might actually take that into account. I don't know the whole scope of it, but they might be a good visit to one of your future meetings, because that is going to be a pretty expansive project that I think a lot of it is related to the College Creek watershed. But we do kind of have to understand where is all the sediment coming from and how can we minimize it, or else we'll dredge and then it's all just going to come back. I don't know. A lot of it does come through that big outfall. So
Yeah, there's just a ton of impervious surface right near there. There's the senior village, and then upstream, there's of course the BG&E substation, which covers a lot of ground. And then they're building a new hotel right across the street from the police station. So hopefully they'll actually do some improvements to that section of land there.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the new developments are held to a pretty high standard. I mean, the state regulations, they have to manage 125% of the stormwater on site. So at least with the new developments that are coming online, they are bringing with them pretty contemporary stormwater management practices. But the older developments that are, I mean, they're definitely not helping in many cases. We are doing that trail project that would be going along the service road behind the Graduate Hotel. And so that is going to have some stormwater management features. So that might help there. But you have that big kind of, I guess it's kind of a retention area that's just above the Robert Eads Park, behind the substation. And I have no sense of what the condition of that is, but that's probably where a lot of this is kind of coming from.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I guess I do have one follow-up. Sorry. You mentioned the potential for a boathouse. Would that be near the archive parking? Would it be up at that end of it?
I think that's going to have to be studied as part of the feasibility study. I mean, that's really one of the major goals, because the city doesn't really have it. It's when you look at other cities that are really encouraging access to the waterfront by everybody and making, really removing the barriers for people to learn how to paddle or just use the waterfront. They have like a community boat facility that, where you don't necessarily even need to pay. You could take out boats. They don't cost a lot, or they have a way of subsidizing that. And that's something Annapolis really should have, and we don't. And so we'll probably be looking at, in terms of location, I'm not, the idea was to have it be closer to the parking lot, so it's just not a hike from there, from where somebody might park. But if you go to that site, and there's still kind of a pretty significant drop off to the water. So it's going to have to be looked at in terms of how you would ramp down to the water if it was at that relatively same elevation as the parking lot. But I think it's probably gonna make most sense to put it in that vicinity rather than, and the students had positioned something farther down the peninsula, which would require more of a trail walk, but I don't know. It just seems like if you're trying to make it accessible, it seems like it would be better to have it closer to where the parking is. So
Yeah, and then less tree clearing, but
yeah,
I-
exactly. That's really important. Yeah, we're really trying to be pretty responsible about this. It's not, we're trying to keep that peninsula forested, and build it up. If some of the trees do need to be replaced, we would be replanting.
And so you envision this trail to go all the way from the Robert Eads Park all the way up to the Gateway Park? Potentially.
Eventually, the county has a huge piece of land there, and we really need to kind of work with them on creating that connection. But we know on the other side, the cemeteries have already expressed a desire to have trails along the waterfront. And so the idea of connecting Robert Eads Park to Northwest Street Park would be pretty viable. And then we're working on a trail project on the St. John's waterfront. It's called the College Creek Connector. That could be a whole separate presentation, but that would be sort of that's probably the most evolved trail project. And that's really intended to connect from when people are coming into town from the B&A Trail over the Navy Bridge and they hit King George Street, where it's really constrained and people don't have a lot of space and they don't feel safe if they're, not like experienced cyclists. This would actually route them along the waterfront, around the St. John's Boathouse, and then under Railbar, and they come out next to St. Anne's Cemetery. And that's a project that we've gotten a lot of state funding for. And it's like in the 30% design phase right now. So we're sort of moving on we have a lot of balls in there, I would say, on this stuff. They all kind of have to happen concurrently and you try to coordinate.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, the audio kind of cut out on me at the end there, but I got the gist of what you were saying.
Yeah, there are questions.
I think he said any other questions.
Oh, okay. I guess one final comment would be that the area
I should just
between.
add that,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was just clearing my throat.
Okay. I was just going to add that the area between my neighborhood and the Methodist church is also, I know I saw it on at least one potential stormwater improvement plan, that area, because it gets an awful lot of flow from the stadium stormwater, and it would certainly be impacted by a project like this if we were to connect those paths through the church property over to the other side of Route Boulevard.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
guess that was my
sewer-
only other comment.
All right.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
So thank you for this information. It brings back memories to what the AEC was speaking about, more than a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. There was an effort, it's somewhat related, not exact, but a greenway bike path throughout all of Anne Arundel. And I think, obviously each county was trying to link. So I realize water access and just parking and walking 100 yards is a little different than bike trails. But as you talk about these different parks, it would be interesting to see, whatever happened to that Greenway project, what pieces of it are out there where, maybe the parks could be a little bit more easily linked, or maybe they, we just have to work off what we have now, surface streets. It's not like we're going to go, create big bike lanes through Eastport or something like that. But I just bring it up, there was a Greenway bike path and there was different people working on it. It seemed like the cyclist clubs of Anne Arundel were most on top of it.
Paul, that vision is actually alive and well, and you may have not been at. There was I don't know if it was the last time I came to the commission, or maybe it was sometime in the last 6 months. I feel like I presented. We have this thing called the Greenway map, and it was
Right.
something that the Annapolis Conservancy Board helped push forward, and maybe the idea started at the Environmental Commission, but the Conservancy Board is much more focused on specific property management, and easements and so forth. And they got behind this idea of actually doing a survey of all the various properties in the city that should be under conservation. And we have a map now, and it's going to be in our comprehensive plan update. It shows all of these greenway connections that you're talking about. And it actually shows the bikeway network as well, the on-street network, both what exists and what's kind of recommended for. And so that idea is actually going to be a pretty foundational thing to our comprehensive plan. It's that map, that Greenway map is probably going to be in 4 different chapters, because it deals with land use, it deals with transportation, it deals with community facilities like parks, and it also deals with environmental sustainability and water resources. So you brought up a good point. It's like just a tangent to this conversation, but there's a lot of work that has been done on that. And the county, they released their own green infrastructure master plan this past year, and we kind of coordinated with them on that. That's something you can just Google, and it's on the county's website, and where they show all the greenway connections that they're trying to create. And I think the last time they did a plan like that was 20 years ago, so it was a huge update, and we worked with them to show our plan, our map in their plan. And I think they kind of graded it out a little bit, but we gave them all of our data. That is all still very much happening.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think I do recall you speaking about it a few months ago.
okay. Is that all you had, Paul?
Yes, I'm glad it's still around. As I say, it's probably been a topic for 6 or 7 years. So I'm glad you guys are on it. And my thoughts years ago when they were trying to cobble it together, and repeating myself, the cycling clubs seem to be most on top of what the opportunities could be, how things could be linked, et cetera. So as long as you've got the cyclists, the bicyclers in the loop also, I have nothing further to add.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Jeremy, Racine, you have anything?
No, I just want to say thanks for the presentation. I'm excited to see this continue moving forward. And I guess if there's specific things the commission can help with, just let us know in the future, right? So I think we're all pretty supportive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything for Eric, but Eric, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and speak to the commission. I
welcome.
think it's very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, and you know, I'll just add my last little comment. You know, I always try to continue to make these emphases around historical and cultural contexts and how important they are. I didn't hear much spoken about it, but I assume and hope that, you know, throughout this development's plan, looking at how, you know, we can look to identify value and not deficit in some of these more underserved communities. Even looking at how to see how they can play a part and take ownership in the project in different ways. And that can be done through different signage and, you know, acknowledging different leaders or greats who have come from those communities that have also had an impact or some kind of connection to the environment. And then also, you know, just a concerted effort to advocate for preserving some of those, you know, existing infrastructures in those communities, because a lot of, just imagine how much is being learned about, you know, these spaces that have been kind of more so open and preserved throughout the years. It's just that much less of it available to those. So I always try to reiterate that with a lot of this activity, it really is a big opportunity to shine a great light on some of those aspects, to not only encourage other people to go into environmental careers or you know, that business of planning and things like that, but even you know, education as well. So
I'm with you.
all right. Well, when do you plan to have maybe like, are you thinking like 6 months from now or 4 months, 3 months? When do you think that some of these aspects of your plans will change enough to deserve some type of update or something like that?
I think the public water access plan is, we're going to be able to see a draft of that for public review in the late spring. And then and the Gateway Park feasibility study is probably going to kick off around the same time. So if not sooner. So stay tuned for that.
Good. And if you would like us, you know, to take a look at any of that stuff, just feel free to let us know.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. We'll let you get on your way and we'll get on with this agenda. Thank you again, Eric.
All right. All right. See ya. Have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
Moving right along here. Next up, we had just our reports from our committees, and you know, we haven't quite filled out our full committee list of members. I'm sorry, so we're a little just still kind of teasing out the different avenue or different departments each of us will select. Have you all had a chance to look at the list of priorities and kind of have an idea for where you may want to put your name in the hat in for that particular theme?
For myself, not since we last did that.
Gotcha. So would it help if, just send it out again and I just don't want it to be a shock or a surprise or a rush when we actually get up to capacity with our members, and then we may start dividing some of those tasks up. So things to report out on. So,
Yeah, that's fine by me.
cool. And then also, any new business? I don't have any I don't have any updates on Alderman Savage's turtle-friendly curb legislation. I've been in talks with him, and I'll check and see what feedback he has since our meeting. The plastic bag ban memo was sent over to the council, so I guess what we can do now is just maybe check with them and see what they thought about it, or if they want to discuss further about it, maybe at the Environmental Matters meeting or something like that. See how that development is coming. The city's hazard mitigation plan, still just, reviewing it, and at some point we may have someone come in and speak on that plan, possibly from either the new stormwater director or new transportation director, or someone from the city's hazardous department.
Just to put it out there, I put my agenda for tomorrow, Randy, to get you the emails that you requested the last meeting. I did not get that done for you this month, but I will get that to you before the end of this week. And it is David Mandel in the Office of Emergency Management that's heading up the hazard mitigation plan. And I'll get you his email.
Great, thank you. All right. I'm thinking also, after listening to Eric speak about, the county's involvement and the state involvement, maybe at some point we could have a representative from the county's office, environmental office, or the DNR or the state, to come and talk about what plans they may have around different environmental plans for the future, different development plans there in the works of strategic plans and things like that, so we can get a look at those too. We already talked about the Gateway project and Hawkins Cove, Waterways Cabinet, Quiet Waters Park. Racine, did you want to spend some time to just report out from your
Yeah, I don't have any updates from the last meeting. Replant Annapolis, they have a cohort that is working through, through this time now. They've decided that depending on how far they get with their projects during the fall and early winter, on whether or not they have another cohort the beginning of 2023. The new stormwater director, that's Betsy McEwen, and I have to get you that email. Again, that was my fault. I didn't get that information to you. The new transportation director is Marcus Moore. He has been sworn in and is up and running. The maritime expansion, I don't know anything about that. This is the first, last meeting was the first time that I saw it in writing. I don't know anything about that. Hawkins Cove is in the same place that it was. The city is working on the RFP. We've got 130,000 that we got in between donated funds and funds from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. And then we've got 500,000 that Eric Lashinsky wrote a grant for from the National Wildlife Federation, I think it is. And so because of the money and the amounts that we have, affected what would be the scope of work under the RFP. So because of that, they needed to revisit it, but it has not gone out yet. And then the Quiet Waters Park, that was pretty much Parkside Preserve. That project that backs up to Quiet Waters Park. And as far as I know, it's been pretty quiet there. I haven't heard any issues having to do with that project.
Okay, great. All right. Anybody have any thoughts for Racine on her updates?
I apologize if you can hear snoring. That's my dog. I don't know if you can hear him or not, but he's right next to me, and which means he's right next to the computer. So I apologize.
No problem. I'm trying to think. I think that was it. Any thoughts? I did talk to Jacqueline. She did mention that she was going to be working on or getting an update on our ability to get those development project spreadsheets again. So I'm just waiting.
Yeah, I wanted to check today, but today's just been one of those days that I haven't stopped since I started at 6 o'clock this morning, and I haven't had time to check. But I believe that the spreadsheet for the development projects was shared with me on the Google Drive, and which means that whatever updates it gets. So I would have to probably determine a point in the month that I'm going to print it out or send it to you.
Cool.
But I have to check on that.
Okay. And also,
I do apologize. I do have a couple of things that I want to put out there as far as new business goes.
sure.
We are at the end of the year. First of all, December with Christmas and then New Year's, we need to decide whether or not you want to go ahead and hold your next meeting on the 28th of December, which would be 3 days after Christmas. Or if you don't want to meet in December, or if you want to change that date.
What do you all think? We can pause for December and start again in January. I think a good break would be nice.
Yeah, I propose we skip
Okay.
December.
Yeah, a break would be good.
Great. Jeremy, Paul, I assume you may agree as well. Okay, does that answer that, Racine?
Yeah, that's good. And then the next thing is, again, we're at the end of the year. The annual report from the commission is due to Hillary by January 16th, 2023. That being said, you also are expected to do annual elections, or and I think that in the past this has pretty much been done in January. Randy, if you want to continue as chair, whether or not you want to put somebody else up as chair, maybe by then, by January, we might have a couple other members. I would not expect that new member would be a chair, but you know, you'd have someone else that might have an opinion. But that also is something that is coming up that in January. So it's the annual report and it's the elections.
Good. Is there a template for what is looked to be provided in these annual reports, or some type of
I can
guideline?
get you past reports.
Okay.
I can get you past reports. I'll put that on my list, my agenda tomorrow to get to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're pretty straightforward. They're pretty simple, kind of lists what were your priorities and some of the accomplishments that you have and what your next year priorities might be. But I'll get you some past reports so that you can see.
I'm sure it probably has some kind of data in there around the environment. It would be nice to be able to put something like that in the report too, like whether it be from different categories, whether it's water quality or tree canopy or
Yeah.
stormwater credits or things like that. Just a thought. Okay. And do you know any update of what's Archie Trader and his environmental education activities have been or going on? I know he had talked about.
No,
no,
that's Park and Recs and or Rec and Parks. I get it backwards. And yeah, I don't know what Archie's up to.
And just, okay, so that was, we'll move right along there. Thank you, Racine. And as far as the DEIJ and the grants partnerships, there's just, if there are any grants going on, there's a few grants out right now. And people are aware or want to know about others, they can reach out to myself or others, and we can try to connect people with different grant opportunities.
Yeah, I will forward you to the commission the RFP for the Chesapeake Bay Trust grant, which is the watershed restoration grant program. And it is a partnership between the Chesapeake Bay Trust, the city of Annapolis, and Anne Arundel County. The RFP just went out, and grant applications are due in March. And you can put a grant in for something as small as a best management practice or BMP, like a rain garden or a infiltration trench or some sort of BMP, or something as large as a living shoreline if you're interested, or you know of anyone that might be interested.
All right, thank you very much. And if somebody wanted to do a living shoreline project, I'm just as an example, who in the city would they talk to about, a grant to do such a thing on city shoreline property?
That would be Betsy McCune. She's the new stormwater program manager.
Oh, right, okay.
She's working directly on the city's behalf with CBT on this grant. So anything that's going on in the city, she could give you some input.
Okay.
And her last name is MC, capital KEOWN. I will get you her email. That's on my list of things I should have gotten to you before now.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. Okay, and just as far as grants updates in the DEIJ section, I've been working with different grant programs and providing technical assistance to organizations that are owned by minorities, people of color. And one grant was awarded to the Reverend Samuel Green Foundation, which was the only minority-owned grant awarded in that Urban Tree Grant program. And that program is going to take place in Annapolis Gardens, where they're going to be planting trees there. And so that should be pretty cool to watch. And there's an NPS grant, National Park Services grant, out right now. It's pretty popular. It's getting a lot of attention. It's pretty vast as far as the different types of projects they are accepting. That's a pretty cool one as well. And there also is the Chesapeake, well, the deadline is tomorrow, well, the first, but Chesapeake Bay Trust has their Connector Group grant for the diversity, equity, and inclusion outreach for their community mini grant program and the CCC Chesapeake Conservation Corps program, to provide them with 5 applicants and then 5 mini grant applicants from communities of color background. And so yeah, coming up, I'm not sure if there are any conferences or activities with, I know the city is doing some different activities around the holiday and giving back and things like that. So we'll keep an eye on that. But other than that, I don't have any next steps and key points. I do have a few notes written down here, so about our next steps. But for the most part, I would like to give you each a little homework, if you all don't mind, and that's everybody here. But if you could go back and maybe by January, just come to the meeting with a list of, or you can give it to me beforehand, just a list of top 3 environmental issues you can think of in your ward. And it'll be interesting to see, because we have 2 people in 1 ward, so we'll see how you all compare to each other's. But this is a little fun activity I think we can do, and keep a watchful eye over the break and the holiday season as to what some of the issues are, and kind of start thinking ahead towards the spring and summer, because that's a busy time for our environment and things opening back up, and trails and parks and such. So it's looking at how we can prepare for that and be ready. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to touch on tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention again that there is the organization Save Our Trees is having an ivy removal event this Saturday, December 3rd, from 10 a.m. to noon at the Jones Cove site over in Eastport. So they have the website is saveourtreestogether.org, and they have a sign up genius. They'd ask that you go sign up if you're going to go. But you don't need any kind of skill. You just need to bring some gloves, and if you have some hand saws or shears or loppers, that would be good. But they've done good work. I've gone to a couple of their events and at Truxton Park, and we've cleaned a lot of ivy off of a lot of trees, and so I'm looking forward to the ivy turning brown at the upper levels of the trees. So it's really important work, and we're eventually going to get to all of the infested areas of the cities. That's the goal.
Yes, and it's such a beautiful thing when it starts to change at the top.
Yeah.
It's like you're bringing life to a tree. It feels like it's a very empowering thing.
It really is. A few minutes can save a mature tree from being choked out. So it's very important.
Yes. Good stuff. All right, everyone. Well, if that's it for everyone, we'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Racine and Madeline, for taking your time tonight. And we'll see you all in January. Oh, we also we're gonna try to have an in-person meeting one of these times. Racine, is that doable, or is that we still on?
Oh, it's definitely doable. You just let me know and I'll make the arrangements over at Pip Moyer, and we can meet in one of their meeting rooms in Pip Moyer. Just need some leeway because the rooms might be booked,
Gotcha.
so on and so forth. But absolutely, it's an option.
Well, we can start an email on it, and maybe we can just look at the possibility of even introducing some of these new members if that could take place at that meeting. But I feel like whenever we do have our in-person meeting, it should be when we are announcing, when we're introducing our new members. So that's just my opinion. But if we can have that happen too by January, that'd be great. But if not, if it's say February, then I'm willing to just hold it off and meet in person in February. 2
I just want to do a little bit of a reminder that if you're not having a meeting in December and the annual report is due January 16th, you might have to do some emailing back and forth as far as, getting that put together so that it's submitted in time.
Got it. Good catch. And me and Allison, we'll make a note. We'll start an email between us and whoever,
Okay.
maybe with us and you, or whoever is in charge of the annual report, so we can get that over to them to us next.
Okay. And
But yeah, Jeremy, Bill, and Paul, definitely, be on standby for me or Allison, just possibly maybe shooting some emails out. So
Will do.
between now and January 16th. Most likely it'll be, definitely to just probably get you all's feedback, review it, make sure it, looks and smells okay before we finalize it.